It's just gone 2 p.m. You are live on EMCA, and this is Upfront. My name is Thulasizwe Semelane. We'll start with news just in. The first case of coronavirus in South Africa has been confirmed.
On the 5th of March 2020, South Africa officially recorded its first case of COVID-19. Days later, the country was declared to be under a national state of disaster. Along with the rest of the world, the South African government had to prepare for immediate action to curb the infection rate. On the 23rd of March, a national lockdown was announced, reporting that it would be starting on the 27th of March 2020.
The National Coronavirus Command Council has decided to enforce a nationwide lockdown for 21 days with effect from midnight on Thursday, the 26th of March.
This meant that traveling and any other high-risk social and economic activities were put to a halt. With every person quarantined away for their own safety, a new interest into the effects of this new reality inspired a research report that aimed to capture the experience of it all. To get a complete understanding of the effects and livelihood of people being kept inside their homes, Dr. Miriam, Maina, and Sarita Pillay, who are the leading researchers, began with choosing to keep the study to one province, Gauteng. Next, they chose and collaborated with 25 ordinary South Africans who were willing to share with the researchers by giving daily updates of their lives under lockdown. This data could be sent as a text message, a photo, a voice note, or email with details of their own unique personal experience. In this video, we will explain how the data that was collected and categorized inspired and shaped the art and graphical visual language of the 4-part book report we now know as the City Lockdown Diaries. As the data was received, the voice notes were transcribed and joined with all other forms of information, which were then carefully categorized. The first main theme that frequently occurred was related to the participants' homes and neighborhoods, and thus inspired the first official theme and title, Spaces and Places, which is now available for all to read for free on our website. The second theme looked at the procedures taken by law enforcement to ensure all citizens obeyed the laws of the lockdown, especially in public spaces. This edition is titled The Streets, Shops, and Social Distancing. While the third theme looked at the mental effects of the lockdown on the participants and is now titled Mental Health and Coping. And lastly, the final report aims to conclude all the topics and themes into one edition and allow for a reflection on all the data collected. This edition is then, of course, titled Reflections on Lockdown. Having such a variation in themes and topics for a single research project highlighted two design requirements that contradicted each other. Here's how. Along with the research team's in-house artist and designer Kagiso Diale, the decision to make all 4 topics graphically and artistically different was taken. The editions needed to work as independent outputs. This means that the books would be designed with different colors unique to the individual style of each published edition of the report. These final outputs would also contain specific art styles and mediums. Through the artwork and illustrations, the project had to capture the essence of the information that was shared by the 25 participants in order to understand the circumstance they found themselves in during lockdown. The voice and tone of one participant in one edition could tell us about something else relating to one of the other themes in another edition. For example, Anonymous Number 1 could share a negative experience about their space in City Lockdown Diaries Part 1, but then share a positive experience about the police service in Part 2. The artwork and graphical design would need to show this difference. However, this only works for the projects if the editions are to remain as independent published issues, which then brings us to the contradicting design problem. The editions also needed to work as one. This meant that a new, formal graphical language of translation, which would be unique to the entire project and would allow for the entire collection to work as one, was equally necessary. For the City Lockdown Diaries Part 1, Spaces and Places, it was clear that the outline stories were influenced by the architecture and spatial planning of where the participants lived. Looking at the information received, there was a wide range of architectural and city planning influences and styles available. Traditionally, architectural renderings of spaces and buildings were mostly captured using watercolor as the medium of choice. The most popular works were indicative of Eurocentric architectural styles. The team, however, was keen on depicting a more South African essence and architectural style. For the second edition of City Lockdown Diaries, a more mythical depiction of the police and the civilians in front of a backdrop that showed chaos due to the fight against COVID-19 was a better fit. The illustrations worked better with the use of images and headlines that shocked most civilians during lockdown. These pictures and stories would be put together digitally as a collage and finished with an oil painting aesthetic that relayed back to the original method of capturing the chaos in the world, but more specifically, the world where the participants lived in.